of the day. And on behalf of Capital for Climate, I welcome all of the finance leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs with us in this room today. I want to give a special welcome to all of the women here, and to everybody who knows what it is to be an exception in spaces like this. The more represented we are, the better. I just want to give you a quick reminder that we are going to be holding panels in both English and Portuguese. So if you're not bilingual, please just make sure you have a translator with you throughout whenever you need it. This afternoon is not about whether nature-based solutions are investable, because this argument is settled. This afternoon is about what happens next and who moves first. To set the frame, I welcome to the stage our co-founder at Capital for Climate, Tony Lent. Tony, to the stage, please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tony Lent. I'm the co-founder of Capital for Climate. And it's an honor to be here with you on this fourth Nature-Based Solutions Investment Summit, co-hosted together with Converge Capital, the Institute for Climate and Society, and the Nature Investment Lab. I'd also like to give a shout out to my whole production team that helped bring this day together. To Paula, to Jacqueline, to Felipe, to Ana Lucia, to Vivi, and to Maury. You have no idea how many weeks of preparation went into making this day and tomorrow happen, and I really appreciate it. This morning, we did 20 pitch sessions. I hope you were able to see some of them. Together, they represented $1.4 billion of opportunity. That's an increase of $300 million over last year when we presented $1.1 billion of opportunity. This afternoon, we have 5 high-level expert panels that'll help deepen your understanding of the strategic context of what's going to happen next for nature-based solutions in Brazil. And tomorrow, we'll be following up with an entire, more than half day dedicated to matchmaking sessions between investors and investable opportunities. We'll bring together 45 investable opportunities and funds and allow investors to have much deeper conversations than we're able to have in the pitch sessions this morning. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to give you a very brief background at our work at C4C, and then I'm going to provide an overview of the nature-based solutions sector, and I'm going to do it with a 6-year frame. I'm going to talk about the changes we've seen in the sector in the 3 years since we did our first Nature-Based Solutions Summit, and then I'm going to talk about what we might expect to see in the next 3 years to 2029. At C4C, we are very focused on scaling investment in nature-based solutions. Why? The science tells us that nature-based solutions are the most cost-effective means of removing gigatons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere while protecting biodiversity, providing community benefit, and also local weather and hydrological benefits. And you know what? Brazil clearly has the greatest potential of any country in the world to scale nature-based solutions, but you can't scale a sector fast without the appropriate financing infrastructure. What we do at Capital for Climate is focus on getting that infrastructure in place, the financing environment. What we are known for most is making connections and fostering deal making. We organize the investable pipeline, we make it visible. We've been organizing an investor collaborative here that represents 20 of the leading investors in the space. We support the leading developers through a collaborative called Union for Nature. We connect the pipeline to investors in settings like this, at New York Climate Week, at London Climate Week, and through strategic partnerships with groups like the World Climate Foundation, PRI, and Ceres. We provide capital advice and capital formation assistance. We track investment in the sector every single year, and we produce a regular newsletter that allows investors here and around the world to track what's happening in the field in a number of different ways. In the next year, together with Nature Investment Lab, we'll produce 4 investment case studies on what we believe are the most important opportunities in the nature-based solutions sector in Brazil, providing investors with what we think are the most important indicators of how these things are delivering returns for investors. Supporting all of our work is an intelligence platform which hosts $45 billion of investable opportunity around the world, more than $5 billion of opportunity here in Brazil. You'll hear more about that investment platform after the coffee break. We call what we have been building here in Brazil a sectoral accelerator. It seems to be working. We have good evidence that over the last 3.5 years, we've catalyzed more than $400 million of direct deals and fund formation activity just through the collaboratives, through these summits, and through the connections that we've made. In partnership with the Ambition Loop and the Climate Champions team, we're looking to take that work globally through what we're calling the Earth Investment Engine. Our work is very collaborative and closely allied with the aims of others in the field. Our partner, Nature Investment Lab, the BRB Finance Coalition, IFAC, the CPI Lab for Climate Finance Innovation, the Action Agenda for Regenerative Agriculture, GFI, and others. We're all part of an aligned effort to remove financing barriers, to foster trusting financing connections, and to establish the infrastructure that scales this sector as quickly as possible. Now let's take a look at where we were in April 2023 for a moment. Our first summit. Nature-based solutions was not a term that was widely used. The pipeline was pretty underdeveloped. Average deal size was $10 million or less. There was very little equity capital, no material catalytic capital in the market, no credit. A handful of managers were prospecting, but there was no specialized investment funds in the space. Brazil's ecological transition plan, which has really been one of the architectures, the framework for everything that's happened here, wouldn't be published until the end of that year. Now let's look at what's changed over just the last 3 years. Nature-based solutions, bioeconomy, and restoration are central to Brazil's climate transition strategy. They're actually becoming pretty normal in allocation in a lot of different funds. The enabling finance and policy environment in Brazil is becoming the envy of the world. EcoInvest has put multiple billions of dollars in concessional credit behind the banks that can be on-lent to the nature-based solutions sector. BNDES has backed 4 nature-based solutions funds. There's the Green Path supporting restoration of degraded pasture. And of course, the TFFF. No other country that we know of has a better enabling environment. The Nature Investment Lab didn't even exist 3 years ago, and now it's laser focused on removing barriers to finance, including standardizing offtake contracts for carbon. Champion developers are emerging in Brazil and becoming more and more attractive to international capital because they're getting better at explaining the returns in key solutions like agroforestry, native forest restoration, degraded pasture restoration. Firms like Regreen, Mombac, Belterra, Courageous, Luxor, Capora, AGBI, Symbiosis, Regenera, Carbon Next, and others are coming up quickly. When we did our first summit in 2023, average deal size was less than 10 million. Today, most of the people that are pitching this morning were looking for between $30 and $50 million. That is a sign of fast growth. Last year, we worked together with Deloitte to survey 32 of these leading developers. They were operating on 1.1 million hectares, but importantly, they were looking to be operating on 2.7 million hectares by 2028. They were looking to raise $6.2 billion. That's an implied growth rate of more than 25%. And it's one that could be on track to 5 million hectares by 2030. More than 12 nature-based solutions funds and vehicles have been raised to address the opportunity in Brazil across the risk spectrum, from venture, private equity, growth, private credit, and catalytic capital. Firms that you've heard of like BTG TIG's Restoration Fund, firms you might not know as well like Pátria Reforest, Just Climate, Regia, FamaRe, Flying Rivers, EV, Violet, Rise Impact, CCAT, the Yield Lab, KPTL, and others. What you're seeing here is a lot of local investment talent. It's the kind of talent you need to co-invest with in Brazil, and it's already in place. Outside of Brazil, more than 30 funds have been formed between 300 million and $1 billion that focus and define themselves around sustainable real assets, regenerative agriculture, ecosystem restoration, regeneration, pure play carbon, and nature tech. Firms like Climate Asset Management here today, Regal Sphere, Gen Zero, Sylvania, AXA, BNP, Rubicon, Ardian, Morova, Astarte, And even infrastructure players like Brookfield and Macquarie are coming into the market. Why is this important? The middle layer of specialized investment talent that we need between the asset owners and the project developers is already in place. In fact, looking across the market, both at specialists and generalists, we think there's as much as $10 billion of capital around the world focused on nature-based solutions in the private market. It's not really about capital supply. It's really about capital coordination going forward. Now let me wrap by talking about a few things we can expect to see in the next 3 years. In our COP30 mobilization, we found 34 investors that were willing to make public their plans to invest $10 billion in the sector between now and 2028. They invested $1.5 billion last year. Our goal over the next 3 years is to help them place at least $6 billion of that here in Brazil. With EcoInvest supplying concessional credit to banks, with BNDES and DFI supporting a number of the asset managers, I think one of the things we can expect to see starting this year is the credit supply extending out to the nature-based solutions developers in the country. We've all heard that early-stage project development capital is missing, the capital that takes you to offtake. I think we're starting to see that change with groups like Hummingbirds, the Green Branch, and others coming to market. More international corporates are focused on nature-based solutions, and project development is starting to look like a scale game. Let me give you some examples. JP Morgan did a $210 million project financing last year for Chestnut Carbon. In March of this year, Brugal committed $500 million to Imperative's global restoration pipeline, including in emerging markets, or mainly in emerging markets. And then in May, the energy company Octopus Energy committed $500 million to the United States restoration developer Living Carbon. These are huge financings, and I think they show a shift in the market. What kind of shift? I think it's a shift to seeing very large multi-country developers emerge. International investors are looking for scale, they're looking for geographic diversity, they're looking for revenue diversity, and they're looking for the ability to handle capital. I think we can expect to see a number of very well-capitalized developers come to Brazil this year and next. So success for Brazilian developers is going to depend on those that can manage capital, that those that can provide investors with a diversity of revenue sources, and those that can master offtake contracts, and those that can also manage the negotiations and handling of rigorous institutional diligence requirements and LP requirements for impact validation. So where are we? Where have we been? In 2023, in April, I would say this sector was totally nascent. By COP30, nature-based solutions and the bioeconomy was center stage in Brazil. I think it's pretty obvious we're about to see the rise of very large international developers. Luckily, Brazil is a top destination for this capital, and I'm pretty confident that over the next 3 years, we'll see at least $10 billion invested in this sector. Thank you.